this masterclass that we have today, where we can see close to 200 plus people have joined. This is going to be around the ideas of what we can do in order to get a job in a company like Amazon or any other company which is like Amazon in the market. So, I would like to streamline this particular session a little bit. So, this particular session wraps or revolves around the idea of how to get into Amazon. So, yes, we will definitely talk about the tips and tricks that can help you a lot to get into a company like Amazon. But this is not going to be just limited to Amazon only. It will also talk about general aspects and general tips and tricks that everybody should know that can help you land a very good job in a very good company. So that's the most important aspect of this particular session. Okay. So when I was a little bit of background, when I used to work with Amazon, I used to work there as an SDE1. So I worked with Amazon for quite some time. And when I moved to Amazon, I moved to a very small company. Sorry, I moved from a very small company to Amazon. So that was my journey. So today, not only I'm going to talk about my journey, but on the other hand, I will also be talking a lot about things that you can do in order to get into a company like Amazon. Okay, so let's try to understand what usually happens, or what does it take in order to join a company like Amazon. Okay, so the particular session that we have today, it is mostly targeted around resume. And resume happens to be one of the most important things that any company is going to look into when they are planning to hire you. So even today, as somebody who is an experienced professional to somebody who is a fresher, and at any point in time, whenever you want to switch your job or whenever you want to get into some new organization, you have to start applying for those jobs, right? Now, when you apply for these jobs, there are a few things that you have to provide. Like, apart from just your information about what do you do and where you are and what's your name, you also have to provide your resume. So, irrespective of what company you're applying and no matter how much information you've already entered,
किस पे
न्यू
uh,
टैब ओपन करो कोड 367
somebody is requesting you all to mute. Yeah. Continuing. So I was just saying that irrespective of how much information you've already provided to Workday or whatever platform this company is using, you still have to provide one very important document, that is your resume. Okay. And I think this information is already understood by all of us. So when you actually do provide your resume plays an important role in the process of you getting that call. Okay. In my experience, whenever we have to switch jobs, so of course, one very most important thing you need is skill. But you know what's the most difficult part about switching a job? That is not to clear the interview, that is to get the interview in the first place. And this is where your resume can really help you a lot. If today I decide to switch my job due to whatever reason, I think the most difficult challenge would be for me to get chances of interviewing at any certain firm. That is the biggest challenge. Clearing an interview is not that difficult. Getting a chance to interview for that company is the most difficult part. So resume is going to help you with that. So when you start providing your resumes to company, you need to make sure that you provide enough kind of information, and you need to make your resume in such a way, or you need to build your resume in such a way that contains information and that increases your chances of selection for you to get that interview call. Okay. So let's see, or let's try to understand from the other side of the table. Let us try to understand from the other side of the table. So in this other side of the table, I want to ask you a few questions. Imagine that you are working as a recruiter in a company like Amazon. Let's say I am a software development manager. Okay, so I am creating a team, or let's say I have a team in Amazon, let's say Amazon Pay, and I am looking for a new engineer. Okay, so this engineer can be SE1, and I'm looking for an SE2 as well. So when I say SE means software engineer. One means entry level, two means with some experience. Okay. So let's say I'm looking for somebody who is an SD1, and I'm also looking for somebody who is an SD2. So I have provided this information of requirement to the team at Amazon. So because you are working with recruiting with at Amazon, you are going to source this talent from the market and get it to the company. Okay, hold interviews, see if they're passing the interviews. If everything is great, you will tell the onboarding team to onboard them, right? So what are the things that you will be looking for? Okay, so let's say you created a job posting on LinkedIn, on Amazon.jobs, and other relevant platforms like Indeed and Shine and all the other places. So now you have multiple applications. So whenever a job opening comes out at Amazon or any major company, you will see endless people applying for it. Endless. I'll give you a quick fun fact. So back in the month of, I think, August of this year, I created a LinkedIn post in which I talked about providing referrals in my company at Intuit. So it was a basic role for an SE1 position, and I said that in case if somebody's interested, you may fill up a Google form that I had provided on my post. Within 24 hours, there were more than 4K people who had filled up that form. I had to go through more than 1,000 people's resumes in order to understand which person to provide referral to. Now you tell me, is it possible for somebody like me who has a daily job to do to look at 4,000 resumes in order to identify which person to refer? Is it even possible? Like I'm just asking practically. Would this is it even practically possible? Just tell me your views. Yes, no, maybe. What do you think about it? No, right? So I would personally say that I did not look into those 4,000 resumes. I hardly looked at five and maybe did not like them. And then, even though I created a LinkedIn post that I'm going to provide a referral, I think I lazed out and I did not provide any. Okay. So it is very difficult. It can get very difficult. Now, just imagine I was going to refer for just one role. Imagine a recruiter who has multiple roles to fill. The recruiter is working in a company like Amazon, which is very, very sought after company. Suddenly, for every single role, there are at least more than 5,000 applications. Okay. At least more than 5,000 applications. Now, the recruiter is not going to look into the resume of every single person and understand, okay, this person is good and get them into the interview loop. There is a system. There is a system that comes into the picture. So this system is called as ATS, and ATS is going to its basic job is to solve this problem that I just mentioned. When you have so many applications, you want to filter out those that are most suitable or that look most suitable for the job. Okay. So ATS is basically a software that is going to understand what is a job description or what is a requirement at the job, and then will try to parse the information written in all of these resumes and understand which resume fits better for the job description that we have. Based on that, the ATS will come out with a certain number of resumes based on how they're configured, and the recruiter will reach out to these people's or these resumes actual owners, and then we'll start to talk about them or start to hold an interview. Something like this is actually what that happens. Okay, so now we have to understand what we can do in order to make sure that ATS or our resume becomes ATS friendly. So whenever you make your resume, we always think a good resume is a resume that is visually appealing. Well, yes, but also no. The simpler your resume is, the better it is. Don't try to make it multi-colorful or like just adding multiple colors, or don't even try to add a lot of information in your resume. I think some of the most important tips that you should be having in order to make a resume is, firstly, make it one page. Okay, make a one page resume. When I am interviewing people, I don't think I want to read so much. Okay, I understand you have done a lot of work. I totally understand and I respect that. But please try to also respect the interviewer's time and make sure that your information is written in a crisp and nice manner. Okay, so you should be trying to understand what is the relevant information that you should put on your resume. If I were you, I would put or I would create a resume in such a way like this. Let me share my screen. I'm not going to share a resume template. Rather, I would show you what are the important things that are important for a resume. And let me just open it only. Then only I think that will be easier to talk that way. Sharing my screen. Let me know when you can see it. Can you see my screen? Great. Okay, so imagine that this is your resume. Okay, imagine that this is your resume. Okay, simple paper like diagram I've made, or like a box. Entire screen, yeah. Okay, so this is your resume. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Yeah. Okay, so maybe you can start with your name. So first thing that you should write at the top is your name. Now you can write it at the top left, top right, at the center, wherever you want. But I would usually tell people to write it on the top left or at the center. Okay, so wherever you want. Okay, so maybe like write your name, let's say ABC or something like this. First name, something like this. Okay, so now that you have added your name, you should also add some basic contact information. So, what are the things that a recruiter needs to contact you? Your email address, your phone number. Okay, so your email address and your phone number should be there. Today, the world is slightly different, so we also add LinkedIn addresses. So maybe you can add your email address, like email. You can have your phone number. You can have your LinkedIn ID over here, or maybe you can have your GitHub ID over here. If you're a developer, if you're not into development, then you may skip it. And you may also add your current location. So current location is sometimes applicable. Like for example, I live in Bengaluru. So suppose if I am switching my job into any company, and my current role is in Bengaluru and my next role is also in Bengaluru. So the company won't have to relocate me, from a different location to Bengaluru. So they will have like small preference of choosing me over somebody who does not live in Bangalore, because the company is saving cost in hiring me because I am already in that city. So sometimes adding the name of the city where you currently are can increase your chances of getting hired. In companies like Amazon and other major companies, you get the relocation benefit as well. But just saying, if the company has a slightly tighter budget, you might be having an advantage if you're in that same city. Okay, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that if you're staying in a remote area, that means that the company is going to cancel you, or that's not going to happen. Okay, that's not going to happen. Okay, so you have to write all of this information. Now you write it on the left side or in the center, totally depends on you. So I'll just write E for email, P for phone, L for LinkedIn, G for GitHub, and C for city. Okay, you may write all this information. Now comes the most important part. So some people like to divide their resume vertically. Some people like to divide their resume vertically, like maybe something like this. Some people like to do that. 1 second. Not sure why this line is not lining. Okay, not sure why this line is not acting in a way that I want. But I think you do understand what I'm trying to say. Yeah, okay, it's working now. So look at this line. Okay. So this line is kind of dividing my resume into two parts, left section and right section. So some people like to do this. Either they divide their resumes on this pattern where there is a smaller section and then there is a bigger section. So some people like to have a smaller left section and bigger right section, and some people like to have it the other way. If you ask how my resume is like this only. So I have a bigger left section and then a smaller right section. But it is not mandatory for you to have this kind of division in your resume. You may not have a division in the first place like this. You may not have a vertical division in the first place. Now, whether you have a division or not, you should write these important things at without any failure in your resume. Okay, so the first thing is experience. So if you have any previous experience, experience, yeah, experience. So if you have any previous experience, let's say any internship, uh, if you have any, okay, Nashara Khan is saying she's not able to see my screen. Are you able, like, are other people able to see my screen? I hope you are. Okay, great. So I was just telling you about the fields that you should be adding. So first thing is you should add an experience. So if you, let's say, are still in college, if you have done any sort of internship, you may add that in your experience. If you're already working somewhere, then experience makes sense. Okay. I think the most important thing that I want to tell you about experience is try to write something which is relevant to that job. For example, let's say you're in your college and you're applying for Amazon as an SD1, and you are filling your experience section with, let's say, a campus ambassador, like small role that you did. That is uncalled for. That is not required. That's irrelevant information. So don't try to add those kind of things. Try to only add experiences that are relevant to the role that you're trying to apply. Okay, so experience, it would be a very important section. The next section would be, in my opinion, which would be important, would be projects. So your experience and your projects talk about your technical ability. That is, what are the things that you can actually do, and what are the things that you've actually done. Okay, so our interviewer gets a lot of information from these two areas, and they can ask you a lot of questions around your experience and projects so that they can understand your skill set even better. Okay, so that is going to be there. All right. After this, you may also add something like this. You may also add education. Okay, you may also add education. So usually in people's resumes which have a vertical separation, people write experience in one part and education in the other part. This is how my resume also looks like. So my resume has a vertical division where the left part is bigger and right part is smaller. So my education and experience are on the top of the resume, where left section is experience and right section is education. If it were not a vertically divided resume, it would be like this. It would be like this. Okay, projects. Then comes another important part, and I think one of the most ATS friendly things, skills. Okay, then comes skills. So when we talk about skills, of course, there can be so much information you might want to provide. So for example, you can say that you know Java, you know C++, you know DSA, you know Node.js, you know Java, you know like Java, you know Spring Boot, you know Django, you know data science, etc., etc., etc. You can say that you know so many things, which is great, but try to categorize them. Like you can write, my front end skills are this, my back end skills are this, my database skills are this, the tools I know are this, and so on and on. So try to have a comma separated values for your skills segregated by category. That way your interviewer as well as your recruiter can easily identify what are the things that you already know. For example, if they're looking forward to hire somebody in backend engineering, they can immediately go and see your backend skills and understand if that matches with their job requirement or not. If yes, then great. If no, then better luck next time. Somebody's asking me to zoom in. Let me just zoom in a little bit. I hope this is better. Okay, so it will be skills. So the right section or right way of adding skills is categorize them, like front end skills, maybe like HTML, CSS, React, Angular, etc. Backend skills, Spring Boot, Node.js, serverless programming, etc., etc. Databases, MongoDB, PostgreSQL, MySQL. What are the tools? You know, Docker, Kubernetes, Git. What are the languages? You know, Java, C++, Python, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so this is how you should write skills. Now, whether you have vertically segregated or not segregated, these four pieces of information are the most crucial things that are required in your resume. If you have just this much also, then also your resume is complete. Okay, so experience, education, project skills, very, 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 very important. Okay, after this, you can write if you have any achievements. So let's say you performed really well in some company, or achievements, achievements. Okay, you can talk about some achievements. Let's say it's been some time since you've been working and you have done some great work. So you can write that in achievements. In case if it is not there, you can skip it also. Another important thing would be certifications. Certification. So a lot of people do AWS certifications, Microsoft Azure certification, or any other relevant certification. Then you can write that over here with your certificate key so that it can be verified. Okay, so you can write that information over here. After this, anything else you write in your resume is extra. It is not needed unless you really want to specify something. For example, let's say you are an international candidate, you are currently an Indian citizen, and you work in America. And you can mention in your resume that you have an H1B visa, or you don't require H1B visa sponsorship, or you do require H1B visa sponsorship. So these kind of things you can write in your resume. Okay, so it depends on that. Open source projects. So that will still be a part of your projects and contributions, right? So that is something you can do. Certification is must? No. Companies like they don't really value certifications that much. What really matters is whether you have the relevant skill or not. So whatever certification you did, you did acquire some skills on the basis of that certification, right? So try focusing more on the skills section rather than certifications. It is not a mandatory thing. Hobbies, it's an extra field. If you want to add, you can add it. If you don't want to add it, you can skip it. Like for example, in my resume, there is no hobbies field. There is no. I'm not interested in talking about my hobbies in my resume, so I may not add it. So everything I add other than these fields that are already on my resume, it is all extra information. DOB not needed. Not needed. There is no date of birth on my resume, and I've still worked for companies like Amazon with the same resume. Language in India, if you're looking for jobs in India, not needed. Like if you were applying jobs outside, you may add it, but usually we always have some space on the resume to add languages, so you can add it. No big issue. So like I said, it's an extra information. I'm a third year student at my college. Should I need to add on my resume to get an internship? Projects and skills. So try to elaborate your projects. In order to get a good internship, you will have to tell the person who is going to give you an internship that you have the skills. Somebody's asking soft skills also. Like what will you add in soft skill? Like, I mean, you can't write that I can speak in English with X. Like you can't quantify it, right? You can't be like, oh, I speak in English with 99% fluency. Like, how do you judge that? Nobody writes soft skills in the resume. It is usually figured out in the interview only. Okay. So these are some very important things that are going to be required for your resume. Okay. So I want to understand one thing. So before I move ahead, I want to understand if anybody has any questions about this template, this thing I've mentioned. So I'm not providing you any sample template. Your resume must look like this. I'm just telling you what are the things that are going to be needed in your resume. Now I'm going to tell you a few more things that are going to be important, but I just want to know if anybody needs more information around what I have spoken to right now. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of questions right now. Okay, let me take these questions. But before we do that, there's a small form that we want to share inside the chat box, which is going to be around collecting feedback for this particular session and some more information that you can find on the form. Anshika can help you understand a little bit around this form slightly more. So, Anshika, I would request you to talk about this form and share the relevant link with the students on the chat box.
Yeah, sure. So basically, why is this form? So as you all know, in this competitive job market, it is really important to upskill. And while self-study is a great option, but not so sustainable one always, given there is a lot of competition these days, and there are a lot of platforms who are providing you a structured roadmap so that you can upskill and land a job that you deserve. So Coding Ninjas also has one. That is a full stack web development job bootcamp. It's a 9 months program which provides comprehensive training and placement assistance till first job. And if you want to know more about it, you can fill up the form, and someone from our team will connect with you and you'll explore what is the application process, or if you are eligible for any scholarship or anything else you would want to know.
All right. Thank you, Anshika, for helping the students
Yeah,
with
we'll
the.
just give them a minute so that they can fill it
Yeah,
up. And once it's filled, you can drop a done. We'll be resuming the session in a few seconds.
sure. So it's 7:31. Let's resume the session at 7:33.
No, I mean, we can start just a few seconds, and whosoever wants to fill it up, they are probably filling it up. Just drop a done, and we'll go ahead with the session. I think you can start now.
Okay.
Restart. Yeah.
So yeah, thank you. So we have firstly a lot of questions, and second thing is that we have a lot of questions on chat. The right place to ask questions is Q&A. So Anybody who is writing questions right now in chat, I would really request you to write your questions in Q&A. I will take the questions because a lot of questions have come to chat. So let me just take it for now. But I'm going to take the first 10 questions on chat. In the meantime, other people, you can move your questions to Q&A. That is where I will be taking questions from and answering. Okay, so many questions. What about ear gap? Somebody has mentioned what? No, somebody has mentioned, is photo necessary? No, not necessary. In software engineering and in tech, it's not necessary at all. If you're targeting for companies like Amazon as a software engineer, nobody is going to look at your photo. Nobody is going to look at your photo. If you want to add, you can add it. Like I said, it's just extra piece of information. It's not necessary. I have never added any picture of mine in any of my resumes, and I've never faced any problem. What about ear gap? So if you have an ear gap, it should be present in your experience only, like that. You need to write your experience in such a way that it shows that ear gap, or like it becomes obvious. So you may have to explain the ear gap in an interview, but you don't write, I had 1 year gap in my resume, in my experience, something like that. We don't do that. Is description or summary required? No. If you want, you can provide, but it's extra information. Uh, One thing, Bhaiya, if company added skill of different types, so we have to mention of all the required skill that they want by company or not. There is some key skill that they only want. So usually all the companies will, I mean, they don't have a lot of requirement, like role specific things. If it's a software engineering job, what are the skills that they like? What can be the most unique kind of skill? Not very different from what you would have already written. So if you know languages, databases, just write it. In case if you see that there is something which is it's very highlighted in the description that you can add, then you can add it. How much details we can add in project section? 2 or 3 lines per project, not more than that. And make sure you bullet point them. Like don't write a paragraph, try to write a bullet points. Like just write bullet points. What is EPLGC? I don't even know. I heard it for the first time. How many projects? 2 3, like try to talk about like some of your best projects. Also, whatever you write, make sure you can answer about that in the interview. There's no point of writing a very top notch project that you can't answer about. So write something that you can answer. Like projects I didn't do anything, then you'll have to do something, right? You'll have to do some projects. Otherwise, you need to give them a reason why you should be hired, because somebody else would have made a project and they can talk about it very well. I'm applying for many internships, but as my resume is not selecting, I just need one internship at product based or MNC. Okay. Easy programming languages. Yeah, you can write. How many bullet points are necessary in experience section? I think three, four, not more than that. Per experience, 3 4. Okay. Is there any websites to check our resumes as ATS friendly? Yes, there are, but most of them are usually paid. I'm a 2016 passed out, but fresher now. I completed SAP FICO. What can I write? You can write about that in certifications. If you have any experiences, then you can write. Otherwise, you might have to write projects and certifications mostly. Okay, so that would be there. If we are applying our resume online for a job, is it necessary to take the same resume to our interview, or can we update it a little bit, removing quantifiers before an interview? You can update it, but make sure that you communicate this to the interviewer that in case if they already have a copy of your resume, you might want to share a newer copy of your resume, which is not like a totally different person's information. So your interviewer most probably will be okay with it, and you can share, and then the interview can go on. Student signature of the student is necessary or not? It's not necessary. Can you please say again regarding the skills on how to categorize? You can categorize on front end, back end, databases, tools, languages, etc., depending on what kind of role you're looking for. Okay. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the questions from the chat. Now I will take questions only and only from Q&A. So requesting anybody who's putting their questions on chat, they will not be answered. Please try to move your questions to Q&A section. Okay, so before I move to the Q&A section, I want to talk a little bit more about projects and experience. So usually your experience, let me just try to move everything, below. So when we talk about experience, let's try to understand how to write experience section. Okay, so firstly, you write the name of your designation. Suppose you were working as a software engineer in some company, so software engineer. Okay, you can write the name of your designation like the software engineer. Okay, And then you can also write the name of the company where you were working. Okay, something like this, software engineer. Let's say the name of your company is ABCD company, ABC company. So you can write the name of your company like this. Okay, and then you may also want to provide when, like since when did you start working over here? So something like this is might be something you want to talk about. Let's say you've been working here since December 22 to present, something like this. This tells the recruiter that you have been working since December 22 in this company and you're still working over there. You may also want to talk about location in case if you want to do that. For example, let's say this job is in Hyderabad. So you can write Hyderabad like this, which can tell the recruiter that, okay, this person currently works at Hyderabad. So if my job is also from Hyderabad, if the recruiter is looking for a candidate in Hyderabad, you can have a little bit of preference. Now you need to write your bullet points over here. So you might want to write some bullet points like this. Point one. Okay, so you might want to write information like this. Okay, now what can be in point one, point two, point three? So try to notice or try to write words like this. So suppose in ABC company, you developed an application which uses X front end and Y backend. So you can write, or you can write something like this: created online platforms that do XYZ. Whatever you did. Okay, you can write optimize, like let's say MNO by XX, or let's say dash percentage. You can also write a point three. Uh, uh, what should you write in point three? Maybe you can write used colon whatever technologies you use, like let's say Java, comma, Spring Boot, comma, React, etc. You can also write it like this. Okay, so in this way, in just 2 to 3 lines, you're talking about some of the highlights of your company and what are the things that you have done. Okay, so just try to write your experience section like this. So if you have multiple companies you work for, try to write multiple points. Okay, so this is how you can write it. So notice one more thing. Whenever I'm starting to write a bullet point, I am using an ed format. So whatever verb I'm using over here, I've used the past tense of it, like created, optimized. I could also use words like maintained, analyzed, objectified, or implemented, something like that. Yeah, optimized, implemented. Yeah, these kind of things. These are the words that we use. So try to write your sentences in that format. These are very ATS friendly. And most importantly, all the things you write in used, they will be caught as keywords by ATS. So if you write more things, of course, they should be relevant and not, you should not be providing too much information. So if they are relevant, they will be caught by ATS, and your skills that you have written over here, they will be caught by ATS, and you will get an increased chance of interviewing for that company. And next thing is referrals work a lot. So try to get referral for whatever company you are wanting to interview for. With this much information and with a crisp resume, you should be able to see an increase in the companies that want to call you for interview. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much it. Now I can take as many questions as much you will give me. Okay, so let's me try to answer more questions. So I have a very elaborate Q&A section over here. Let's get started with some questions. Okay, so I'm expecting to get the best out of today's session. Okay, thank you. I'm working in ICICI Bank and Technology Department. Can we switch to Amazon as an SDE? Well, that depends on what are you doing in ICICI Bank in the technology department. So yeah, that is something I want to understand. Secondly, I also want to understand your educational background so that I can give you more, like I need that information to make a comment on that. Should things like TOEFL be mentioned? It's an irrelevant information. If you're applying in India, then not needed. But if you want, you can add. Should I add AWS certificate? I have, but I don't know much about it. It was a college in curriculum, so I completed that. If you add it in your resume, and if your interviewer asks, what will you do? They will tell you, you have done certification, you should be able to know it. But if you're not able to answer, it can backfire. So add it only when you know it. Do we get the recording of this class? I think yes, you can get an email copy of the recording of this class. What is EPLOG at top? Okay, this EP, so E is email, P is phone number, L is LinkedIn, G is GitHub, C is your city. So I've written them in short form. Okay, let's get to more questions. Profile summary needed or not? Depends on you. If you want to add it, you can add, but not needed mostly. I don't have experience. What should I do now? I'm a fresher. Try to add or try to do more projects. How much details we should add in project section? Same like this, like you've added in your experience, just like this, like 2 to 3 bullet points. I don't do any projects. Suggest me some good programming skills to acquire. Maybe focus on full stack development and then do projects on that. How many bullet points are necessary in experience section? It's not that somebody is going to check whether you added 3 or 2 bullet points. Oh my God, you added just to cancel. It's not like that. You can use as many bullet points, but again, don't use too many. Like 3, 4 is an optimal number. You can use 5 also if you want. You can use 2 also if you want, as long as you're able to convey the information and not use too much space. One thing, okay, I think I've already answered this question. If there is no experience, what to add in resume? Fill your experience section with projects. Like don't add experience, try to add more projects. Best programming language to learn. I wish I had an answer to this, but one of the nicer programming languages to learn that can help you with job hunting today is JS, that is JavaScript, and Java. These two languages will help you a lot right now. Best programming language to learn quickly. Python, maybe. Is it necessary to explain about the past experience in detail? Not very much detail. You can see I've just added bullet points, so that should be more than enough. Okay. How many projects we have to add in the resume? Again, there is no limit, but still 2 to 3 if you can. If you just have one very good project, then that is also fine, but at least 2 you should add. I'm a third engineering student and I want to know the best way to get placed with a good package. Study a lot of DSA, get a very good and crispy resume, improve your profile on LinkedIn, GitHub, and any other coding platform like Code 360 and Lead Code, and start asking for referrals. This way, you will get good, good package with good company. Do we need to provide a summary at start? No. I have a gap after NCA pass out. I worked for 1 year, then again 4 years gap. How to mention that in your resume? You don't have to mention it in your resume. Just talk about your experience. Like, for example, you worked for 1 year, right? So write the start date and end date of that 1 year. If you have 4 years of gap and then you started a new job after that 4 years, write information of this new job. It's the recruiter's job it is the recruiter's job to identify whether you had a gap or not your job to tell them that I had a gap for this much time. If they ask you in an interview, then you explain it. It's not necessary for you to write that in your resume. From where can we make the resume which is ATS friendly? If somebody asks me a question where I can make my resume, I would always suggest them make it by yourself. So if you have, which I am pretty sure you do, if you have Microsoft Word on your computer, then you can use that tool in order to make your resume. If you don't have it, then get it. If you're on a Mac machine, you can get an application called as Pages. It is free on a Mac, so you can use Pages to make your resume. When I was in college, I made my resume from Microsoft Word. When I changed my computer later after I had a job to a MacBook, I created the same resume in an application called as Pages, and that is where I still edit and use my resume from. I never use any website to create my resume, because let's say today I created my resume from a specific website. Tomorrow I have more experience, I want to change more information. Now that website is not available or that template is not available on that website, then I have to create a new resume every single time, and I don't want to do that. So the best way to create a good resume is to create it by yourself. Okay. Don't have experience, what I should do now? I'm a fresher. I've already told you this. Write more projects, study more, make projects on that. What kind of projects are good for SDE role? Full stack projects are best for SDE roles. So try to make good full stack projects. The more full stack projects you make or more backend projects you make, the better it is. How should a resume look for a role switching candidate, associate or developer? For a role switching candidate. Now, I need to understand what do you do as an associate. Uh, Only then I can help you. So it like associate is a role that is very, it's like it's very vast. It can be from anything to anything. So you need to tell me what do you do as your associate role. Okay, best role that can't be replaced by AI. I don't know, to be honest. But I think a software development role is not getting replaced by AI anytime soon. What type of projects are expected for internship? Depends on what kind of internship you want. If you want an internship in marketing, then marketing internship. If you want internship in development, then development project, something like that. So anything relevant to whatever you are looking for. What best programming skill to have? DSA. Best programming. I've already answered this question. What would be a good project to make distinction for SDE roles other than generic websites? MySQL or Mern, Docker, Tailwind. Hmm. Make a full stack e-commerce website. That's very good. It's a very cliche project, but your implementation matters the most. So try to convince your interviewer that you implemented things in a very nice manner, and you can have that great job. So Mern is a good technology. So good that you already know that. I have certifications for coding. Just should I add it? You can add it. If you can talk about that certification, what you did, and explain what you learned, then yes, go ahead and add it. If you can't, then even if you have certification from Harvard, it's still of no use. What about data analyst? Same kind of resume structure. Again, you need to have similar kind of projects, similar kind of experience, and then it would work. Should TOEFL test be mentioned? You can add it, but again, in India, it's not necessary. Uh, Best role that okay, I already answered this question. For what about data analyst? Already answered this question. For fresher, words does not have more to write. Resume look like empty. It does kind of look like empty, but you have to still fill that space, like with maybe some projects. I mean, when I was in college, I think I mostly filled it with one internship and few projects. So I had like 4 or 5 projects back then, and I used to write at least top three of my projects every single time. When I started to gain more experience, I started to remove projects and replace them with experience. So that is what I did. So yes, your resume might look a little bit emptier on the start. For this, you can maybe create more projects and fill that space up. That is the best way to do it. And seek internships if you're not in your final year. Best programming skill to have DSA, I've already told you. In my current company, I don't have good projects. Can I write projects which I found on internet? Yes, as long as you understand everything, you can write it. But make sure, like I understand you found some project on the internet, but at least try to create or duplicate the project by yourself so that you understand how it's working. Can we switch from non-tech to technical? Yes, you can. You're asking for a roadmap. I can talk about it, but let's save this question for later. How many projects are required in a resume? 2 to 3 or even 4 is fine. Does random numbers or percentage experience effective? Well, you can't write unrealistic numbers that I increase the efficiency of something by 100%. If the number is big, it will raise questions. Like, how did you do it? And the interviewer, of course, is technically sound. So they will expect you to have an answer that actually makes sense. So you can't just write any random number. Try to write something which is realistic. I am daily update in my Naukri.com profile, but not a response. Well, Naukri.com is a good place, but I would still say, just keep applying. Sometimes it's also about the luck. Sometimes you can clear an interview in the company, but you still might not get a job. So luck factor is also there. How can we talk about? Okay, I've already answered this question. What is the free AI ATS resume website? I don't know. You'll have to do a Google search. You have to start your YouTube. But yeah, thank you. I'll think about it. According to your resume, like in the vertical form, how would you arrange these headings? So I have experience, then education, like this, and then I have projects. So on the left hand side, I only have experience and projects. Then I have skills, and then I have certifications and some other information like achievements and languages that I know. That's it. That is my uh, resume arrangement. I don't have experience. What should I write? Projects. I have gap here. Okay, already asked answer this question. What is the tool you're using right now for explaining? It's called draw.io, draw.io. It's a free tool. It's a good one. If you want to use it, you can use it. I'm applying so many jobs, but does not come in interview call. Get referrals. Get referrals. Can fake experience create problems? Yes, they can. They can. So if you create fake experiences, there is going to be a background check, and Amazon will conduct a background check. If they find you haven't worked in a company you have mentioned, no matter how great your interview went, you can be cancelled immediately and blocked for further interviews. So it can create a problem. Please clarify and give me solution to what. I just want to ask that company is not coming in college, and also resume is not selected in off campus. My resume is also matched with your explanation. Try to get referrals, Varnika. That can be helpful. Try to get referrals. Try to look out for campus related opportunities of companies. That can help you a lot. Can fake experience? Yes, I've already answered this question. There are open 104 questions, and I hardly have around 10 more minutes. So I'll take maybe like the next 10 questions and then I will move ahead. Okay, so let me just take the next questions. Can you please tell us something about cold email? Yeah, cold emailing is a good technique. It doesn't always work, but it can work. Okay, so cold emailing can work. So give it a shot. You can definitely give it a shot. I'm a 3+ experience candidate. Do I need to explicitly add the project section in my resume, which in which my personal yes, I think you can add it. To be honest, Vivek, I am a 3+ years experience person, and I still have that project section on my resume, and it does help me. So when I recently joined into it, before that I interviewed with a lot of companies like Microsoft, Apple, Intuit, and some other companies, and they did look at my projects and they were interested in talking about it. So I did talk about it. What if I'm a fresher? Already answered this question. Or just experience section is enough and don't add personal projects in the section. I mean, experience is enough, but if you add projects, it does give you some personal credibility, right? That you are also technically interested outside just your job. What to write in profile summary or objective about what kind of individual you are. Now, you can't just say, oh, I'm a gaming individual and I love playing computer games. No, not like that. You have to talk about your career objective. What is the standard fund size and fund family? There is no standard fund size and there is no fund family standard. It's not like you have to only use Arial, Calibri, whatever. Anything you like, use it as long as it is a decent font. What would be a good project to make distinction? I've already answered this question. What about data analyst? Same thing, but you have to add data analyst projects and everything. Would adding Udemy course completion certification? Yes, you can add it. What can a fresher write under experience? Nothing, because you don't have an experience. Write projects. Any guidelines about Amazon's Wow internship program? I actually don't. I think it's a woman only internship program, and I myself am not a woman, so I don't have a lot of information about that. I'm a 2020 passed out and 2.6 years experience in different sectors, which is not related to IT. Could I mention this in the experience section? Currently, I'm learning Monstack and trying to entry level job as a fresher. You can write it, but you can write it. You can actually write that experience about whatever you did. I'm assuming it might be a non-technical role. You can write it because and if it's too many jobs, then it can be an issue. But if it's just one job, then it's fine. I wrote a blog. Can I add that in resume? No, not very helpful. I did a non-technical job, left it. Now I'm joining as a fresher IT, switching to IT. Should I mention? Yes, you can mention it. It's okay. Which projects to put freelancing or company projects? In the project section, it should be your projects. In the experience section, you can talk about what you did in your company. Do we not write a summary? It's not important. I've already mentioned it so many times. So we have to be honest to the recruiter. Yes, you have to be like. Of course, you can lie a little bit, but don't lie so much that it gets you. It gets you. Don't try to lie too much. Like lie only until a certain limit. But the main thing is, what will you lie? What will you lie about? You can't say that I worked for Google when you did not work for Google. You can only say, yes, I've worked on XYZ technologies. And it will be proven only when your interviews on those XYZ technologies go well. That's it. That's all you can lie about. I have career gap of 4 years. Okay. That's still fine. How can we talk about year gap? I have already mentioned this many times, and I'm saying this one more time. Even if you have 10 years gap in your resume, you don't have to mention in the experience section gap for 10 years. You don't write it. You just write your experience according to that with start date and end date. It is the recruiter's job to identify whether you had a gap or you did not have a gap. Okay. So whether you have a gap or you don't have a gap, you just always and always write start date of the start month and year and last month and year. That's it. Everything else is not anything else like writing specifically I had 10 years of gap or 4 years of gap or 1 year of gap or 6 months of gap. That is not necessary. You don't have to. Why are you trying to put the axe on your own foot? Why are you digging your own grave? Don't do it, right? That is not needed. I have experience in test engineer position. Okay, fine. A lot of people move from test engineering to development. That's totally fine. Can fake experiences create problems? I've already answered this question. Front end or DSA, which is more important for SDE? DSA. I'm a 2023 grad working in a BPO as of now, would like to switch to IT. What should I do? You need a roadmap for switching. We can talk about this later, almost at the end of the session. So I'll save your question for later. I have made my resume ATS friendly, but unable to select in BCG, Amazon like company. Sometimes luck factor is there. Try to get referrals. I think that should solve a few problems for you and have a lot of patience. Job hunting is not easy. How many projects should be mentioned as recommended? 2 to 3. Like I have 3 projects on my resume. Is it possible to get into Amazon as test engineer position? Yeah, it is totally possible. Can we switch from non-tech to technical? Yes, you can. And roadmap, you'll have to wait until the end of the session. Which projects to put freelancing as company? I've already answered this question. Any guidelines about Amazon? I've already answered this question. Which skills require full stack developer, backend and front end? I worked under HR department in ICICI Bank as data visualization analyst. And can I add that as software? You can fake that a little bit. You can tell the company that even when you were at ICICI Bank, you did software development. Nobody's going to go and check inside ICICI Bank what did you do, but some companies do. Like companies like Dish or Globalization Partners, they will call your previous employer and everything, and they will try to get the information from the previous employer. But companies like Amazon will not do it. So if you write that you worked as a developer, it's fine. But your designation should be the same as your original designation because it will be present in your relieving letter. So make sure you don't change the designation. You can change with the roles and responsibilities of whatever you did in order to align more with your expected role. Okay, so we are at 7:59, and I can still see that we have over 118 questions that are currently pending. Okay, so that I think would not be possible. So but still, that doesn't bring us to the end of the session. So instead of me trying to take more questions over here, we have somebody closer to Coding Ninjas that is already present into the session who will take the session slightly forward and will help